Welcome into the Hard Count presented by Culver's, baby. It is Thursday, May 1st, 2025, dog. Already May. That's absolutely horrific to look at. College football right around the corner. Get locked in. Glad to have y'all here. Make sure you're subscribed. College football, but college football, like I say, every single show. I want to start with a little bit of a riff for us together here. We're talking about Arch Manning here in a second. Talk about John Mateer. I got two thoughts top of mind. One, if it was 100 men versus one gorilla, I'm betting the human race. Not necessarily if it's like 100 average Joes. We're picking off Broadway and Nashville. I don't love our odds there, but we put together a roster. I think we could get it done. Just my 2 cents. That's point one. Point two, I feel like we just have to say this out loud. Like, y'all, we love college football with every fiber of our being. And this is a time of the year now where a lot of different shows start to drift away and maybe do less content and talk about other things. Y'all, the minute we stop doing as much content as we're doing is the day our key cards stop working. Like Caden Smith and I, we are able to do this, and we're not taking our foot off the gas. And so being allowed to do this, for a job, it's full speed ahead. So I just want to make sure we make that clear. A lot of people in this just overall like media industry don't necessarily love the sport they're talking about. Maybe it's an avenue to do something else or talk about another sport. College football for us is it, y'all. So if it's something that you're about, the way that we're about, go ahead and make sure to subscribe. Appreciate y'all being locked in, and we're going to make sure we give you our very best. When we lay our head on the pillow at night, man, let you know we gave you everything we had. So we'll move forward from there. But let's start here. If you go check the NFL draft odds for next year, you don't see Garrett Nussmeier to be the number one pick as the best odds. You don't see Lenoris Sellers. You don't see Caleb Downs. You see Arch Manning. Let that sink in for a second. A quarterback who is yet to actually be the guy at Texas. Started a little bit last year, but Vegas is just dangling that in front of your face. Cato made a great point before we got rolling here. Vegas is trying to take advantage of you. They always are, but especially with this. Because you weren't going to bet the number one pick for next year just yet. You weren't even thinking about that. Wasn't even on the front of your mind, but you see the last name Manning. You think about Eli dropping dimes in the Super Bowl, Peyton and all his tremendous commercial work he does. You say, you know what, I could throw a few dollars on that. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm saying it's ridiculous that he has the best odds to be the number one pick as we sit here right now in the month of May. And that's not me dunking on Arch Manning. I'm just saying, can we all just chill out for a second? Can we let this dude actually play some real meaningful college football? Can we get week one out of the way before we start trying to put number one draft pick expectations on my guy? So it's not even that I don't think he could potentially be the number one pick next year. I'm here to say I don't even think he goes pro next year. I don't. I think Arch Manning, even though he will be eligible to go pro next year, will come back to Texas for another season. The reason why I feel that way, this is always how the Mannings have moved. And it's so maybe jarring for the college football public or the public in general because it's so counter to what society tells us right now. We're all about instant gratification. That's why the portal's packed every single cycle. That's why we see guys, going pro before they're ready to go pro. It's all about right now. I want to have it. I want it all. I want it all. I want it now. That's a song that's, I imagine it pretty well in the charts if I'm talking about it right now during a college football show. We want it all. We want it now. Arch Manning and his camp, they're cool with getting it all, but a little bit later down the line whenever they're ready to have it all. Like the point for Arch Manning whenever he goes pro is not to be the number one pick. If it happens, awesome. But I guarantee you, the whole reason why he went to Texas, why he stayed with Sarkisian after Ewers came back for another year was because of development and because of being ready when it's time to go to the NFL. It's not about getting to the NFL. It's not about getting the payday to be the first overall pick. It's about when I get to the league, can I stick there and have the most amount of success possible? Like we've seen them be a delayed gratification kind of operation the entire time with Arch, right? Like didn't take NIL money up front, didn't need it, didn't want the spotlight. Could have gone somewhere else and played right away. I promise you, Arch Manning could have started as a true freshman at a lot of different schools. Chose Texas as a spot where he knew he'd sit, knew he'd develop, knew he'd get better, and he also came back to Texas, like I already said, when Quinn Ewers said, hey, I'm coming back for another year. I'm coming back to play at Texas for another year, even though I could have gone pro. Arch says, cool, it's not changing my plans. I came here to get developed, play for Sark. That's what I'm going to do. And so even if he looks great next year, I don't think it's a guarantee that he goes pro. So what would it take for him to go pro is maybe a fair discussion to have right now. It's kind of like that quote you hear, if I win the lottery, I'm not going to tell anybody, but there will be clues. If Arch is ready to go pro next year, they're not going to talk about it during the season, but there will be clues. I think it's going to take the perfect storm of personal success and team success. Like if Arch Manning goes out there and has a somewhat pedestrian kind of season, but the roster talent at Texas is just so good and the defense is so good, and Texas wins a national championship, awesome. I think Arch comes back. I think he says, you know what, I got more to accomplish. I want to get better. I think his camp tells him he's got to get better, comes back for another year. So just winning a national championship doesn't guarantee that Arch goes pro. Other part of that is, what if Arch has a great season individually? Let's say he's playing at an all-SEC level and Texas is, good, not great. They win 9 games, miss the college football playoff. Hey, Arch, let's run it back. You came to Texas to go have, success to the degree of bringing Texas, quote-unquote, back. He said in an interview with Marty Smith. Now, I think Texas, by most accounts, probably is, quote-unquote, back. But if he doesn't make the playoff this upcoming season, which we would be shocked by, full transparency, I have Texas making the national title game as it stands right now. I think that it's not just about personal success. I think it's about coming back, having success at a team level to the degree at which he expected when he committed to Texas. So I think if he has a Heisman finalist caliber season and Texas makes the national title game, at that point we can all say, hey, man, you're probably ready to go pro. You probably don't need to come back for another year. You've probably beat this level. You came to Texas, did what you were supposed to do, did what you said you would do to bring Texas to the front of the national prominence, I suppose, if you don't count them as national prominence already. Go on and go make your money. Go be a top NFL draft pick. I really don't think it's about his draft stock, to be real. I really don't. I think it probably is something you factor in. But if it's between being the number 1 pick and being a top 15 pick, if he's going to be a top 15 pick, but he feels like he's more ready to succeed in the NFL, I think that's when you would see him go pro. Like if he's projected to be the number 1 guy and it's not a lock that he's going to have success next year per the Mannings, we'll ride this out. We'll ride this out because the thing is, man, like I don't think it's about the money for him. It's never has been about the money for him. Like I promise he's being paid well at Texas. I promise you. I promise you that Red Bull money isn't, those checks aren't bouncing anytime soon. The Vuori money, still good. Have to believe it. It's not about money. It's about getting to the league and having success. So for Arch, if you want to bet him to be the number 1 pick next year, I'm not telling you it's just ridiculous to think it could hit, but I don't even think he goes pro after this year for all those reasons I just mentioned. So we'll keep a good thing going, man. From one side of the Red River to the other, how about John Mateer and what he's going to be in 2025? If you've watched this show, we are insanely high on number 10. We are. Like if that ship goes down, we are on the front of the deck saluting the entire time as that thing sinks. I don't think that'll be the case, but whenever you speak positively about John Mateer, I get it, man. It's a little bit tough to trust after you get burned, right? We all have our own trust issues about certain things, and it's interesting whenever you speak about John Mateer and how good he's going to be next year, without fail, in the comment section, in the mentions, always, well, you said the same thing about Jackson Arnold last year. We heard the same thing about our 5-star Prince last year, how good he was supposed to be, and look at where we are now. I hear you. What I'm saying, though, this with John Mateer is not that with Jackson Arnold. Full disclaimer, I'm pro Jackson Arnold. I think he can have a lot of success at Auburn. But I think that John Mateer and what he is going into this upcoming season is a vastly different story, which we'll unpack together. Before we do, Oklahoma fans, college football sickos, lock in, subscribe. It's college football, nothing but college football. I told y'all we love this sport with every fiber of our being. We make a college football show for people that watch full game college football reruns on YouTube during the month of May. This is for y'all. So if that's you, go ahead and lock in. Appreciate y'all being subscribed. When you think about what John Mateer is relative to what Jackson Arnold was, the references you check for a John Mateer are very, very different than the references you check for Jackson Arnold. Because Jackson Arnold, you saw him in a bowl game not look awesome. There were flashes. There were things that I took away from that said, okay, I see where this could be, but there was a lot of turnovers in that bowl game against Arizona. And that was really the only sample size you had to go off of the guy outside of garbage time. You went from checking the references with like a high school chem teacher to then checking references with a former boss, with who John Mateer played for last year. There's actual real college football games you can go and watch that John Mateer started real production from a year ago, 44 total touchdowns, to where you can look at that and say, okay, that's something that's potentially more reliable. Not that Jackson Arnold as a 5-star was like the wrong grading for him as a prospect. I don't think the industry whiffed on Jackson Arnold as a prospect. I think the situation last year, though, with what you were expecting of him, there wasn't the same, again, references, data point, film to watch that would give you the same confidence that you should have about a John Mateer. You're also not just hoping this whole thing floats when it comes to what's around John Mateer, specifically at the staff level. As much as I believe in what Jackson Arnold can be in the future, like last year he was working with an offensive coordinator he had never worked with before. He had never truly game planned throughout the entirety of a season before. Also, the offensive coordinator he had worked with hadn't called plays since 2015. How many of y'all know that's very different than working with a coordinator that you had success with a year ago, had a top 15 offense at Washington State? Ben Arbuckle, John Mateer, handshake emoji, we're not picking up at the same spot. There's very different jumping off points there. I also think the skill set of a John Mateer, like how many times last year did Oklahoma just struggle to even get the play started? We throw this number out a lot. 13% sack rate for Oklahoma, 13% of your snaps ended in a sack. That's wild. It's not even factoring in the amount of pressures Jackson Arnold dealt with. That's a big reason why I'm not believing that Jackson Arnold in his career is just sunk. I still think he's got a lot of juice. Last year, it's impossible to even have an accurate sample size for it. That's why you had Michael Hawkins Jr. in the game for you last year, because he could make something happen after he escaped the inevitable rush that was coming pretty much every single drop back for Oklahoma. John Mateer's got that with him. If you just plugged in John Mateer to last year's offense, I don't think you'd probably go make the college football playoff, but I do think you'd have a lot more success when it came to those plays breaking down, being able to escape the rush, eyes downfield, deliver a good throw. John Mateer's just got a lot more of that. Like, just in general in life, it's always good to have someone on your team that's able to talk their way out of things, diffuse situations, tell a funny joke, kind of change the temperature in the room. That's John Mateer and his mobility. He can diffuse the situation. Got the right blitz dialed up? No worries. Offensive line, putting it together? All good. Not as a non-issue, but he can make more happen there than I think a Jackson Arnold could. Just a better fit overall. So we speak to the coordinator side of it and the staff part of it. Like, let's just be really honest about what this roster was last year, what it is this year. Bad luck. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what kind of whack stuff was going on in Norman, Oklahoma, and all the potential things that could happen to have this kind of bad luck. I don't know if you're stepping on cracks, if you're breaking mirrors, black cats. I don't know. I'm not stitious. I'm not stitious at all. But if you're Oklahoma, you're like, palms up. What do we do? Jackson Arnold was walking into a fixer-upper last year. He was. Even with the roster being what it was and all the injuries, like the offensive line was brand new, coordinator brand new. There was holes in the wall, AC wasn't working, 5 new offensive linemen, all that. It was a fixer-upper. You could see how it could work, but it was a fixer-upper. John Mateer, it's not finished, but it's a lot more furnished, right? AC works, Wi-Fi's good, windows aren't broken, everything works properly there, new appliances, got a coordinator he trusts. Weapons, for the most part, you hope are healthy. Even Giovanni Gibson, when he gets injured during spring practice, you're like, here we go again. Sounds like he's going to be healthy for the season. Okay, hallelujah. One for the good guys. There's a lot more there. Portal ad with Jaden Ott and what he is at the running back position. There's a lot more there to where it's already more ready-made for success. I said John Mateer could maybe have more success in last year's offense than Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold could have more success this upcoming season than he did last season if he were to stay at Oklahoma. Like, he would have been better. I promise you, based on what's around him, he would have been better if John Mateer hadn't transferred in. So you're hearing me say all this, and you're still probably like feeling a little bit like that kid with glasses in the Polar Express. Okay, so what? Okay, so what now? So what is in the SEC? You have to be able to score points. Sounds kind of like a no-duh statement, but legitimately, look across the conference. Probably half the conference now is offensive coaches, and the teams that you're going to play, Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee, like it's South Carolina, it's LSU. It's going to be a thing here where you can't just go out there and Big Ten West it. Rest in peace to the Big Ten West. It's not going to be a thing you can go win games 14-17, okay? So with John Mateer, and we're talking about quarterback matchups here going forward, I think I'd take John Mateer in every single quarterback matchup, but maybe LSU because of how productive Garrett Nussmeier was, and maybe South Carolina because of how good Sellers is and how good I think he's going to be, and also I've seen him do it in the SEC. But like every other quarterback matchup, I lean John Mateer. So my feel on it, I think he's probably got you a bit more confidence than no knock on Ty Simpson, but than a Ty Simpson. No knock on anyone else they have to play, but I probably feel better about John Mateer across the board there. So as long as you have the most important position as an advantage, you got a chance. You got a chance. And we'll see how this whole thing shakes out with what's the offensive line look like and how do the weapons translate and stay healthy. All that is true, but at a jumping off point in May, there's a lot more to be confident in. There's a lot more to be secure about than what you had last year with Jackson Arnold. This is not a Jackson Arnold slaughter session. I'm pro Jackson Arnold. I hope he kills it at Auburn. I think he will have more success at Auburn. But John Mateer, it's a very, very different beast, just so we're all aligned there. But nonetheless, we will see how it shakes out here in the fall. SEC Media Days, dude, right around the corner. Right around the corner. And someone who will be at SEC Media Days is DJ Lagway. I don't know if y'all were checking the socials, keeping a pulse on things, but DJ Lagway posting on his Instagram story, out there throwing the football a little bit. Now, this is significant because during spring practice, first day you show up and you're waiting for number 2 to start throwing the ball, and you're like, why is our starting quarterback not throwing the football during spring practice? Practice 1 turns into practice 5, turns into the spring game. DJ Lagway did not throw all spring. And what we say in college football is people commit to people at the recruiting level. Like, you commit to your head coach, you commit to your position coach, all those things are true. As a fan, you commit to players and coaches. Emotionally, you were committed to DJ Lagway in what you were going to be at Florida next year. Your hopes around Florida, yeah, you feel good about returning production. You think Billy Napier's got this thing headed the right direction. But if you didn't have DJ Lagway at quarterback, that vastly changes the amount of commitment you have emotionally to what Florida's going to be, at least expectations-wise. So this is a big deal, in my opinion, with DJ Lagway throwing the football for a couple of reasons. Now, let's break down the video really quick, though. One, if you saw that, sweet Jordans. All right, that's the first off. Sweet Jordans, that's cool. A little bit elephant print there, I think. Shout out to Florida, the Jordan School. If you're watching and want to send the boys some gear, we will happily take that. But nonetheless, I digress. 2, on a real note, there's some zip there. Now, it's not a 30-yard throw. The guy's not moving. There's no rush. We're not in pads. I hear all that, but there's some real zip on the ball, not babying it, which to me says, okay, we're actually putting some strain on the arm. I'm encouraged by that. But the reason why this is maybe more encouraging than it is at first glance is I think it rules out what could maybe be considered scary if you were a Florida fan. Because this whole thing kind of snuck up on you, right? You didn't have on your bingo card DJ Lagway not throwing during spring practice. That was all out of left field. And so as things progress, you're not really getting a ton of concrete information on this. You're saying, well, how bad is it? How long do I have to wait before I see DJ Lagway spin the pill like a shady pharmacist? When does that happen? And the good news is you won't have to wait till fall camp. You see it on the Instagram story. Got to wait till he gets some pads. I hear that, but to me, you're not asking the question, can he throw, waiting for the reports to come out over at Gators Online when we get into the middle of summer. I also think it's potentially worth noting that this proves that Billy Napier was being truthful. Said, hey, DJ Lagway, he's progressing. He's on schedule to throw. You can say all that, but if I don't see it with my eyes, it's just lip service. You're just talking a big game. Yeah, he's on schedule. Well, you don't have to prove it. There's no way that I actually know if that's the case if he's on schedule because I'm not in the building in Gainesville. I'm not chopping it up with DJ Lagway every day and saying, hey, brother, how's the shoulder? How's the hip? How we doing? How's the lower body? Whatever it is. So that to me goes back to feeling, I guess, some level of confidence that it's not this thing where DJ Lagway has this massive injury they're just keeping under wraps. So that's that. Now, I do think your concern level around DJ Lagway missing spring practice goes back to how crucial you think it is for DJ Lagway to have spring practice. Now, I want to get this disclaimer out of there because Cato and I, this is probably our biggest friction point in our professional relationship. We agree on a lot of things, but this is something we probably go back and forth on. And if you if you listen to the Huddle podcast crowd, you're dialed in. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast feed, Apple, Spotify. Quick plug. Then you know that, and you've heard our takes on this, and I'm sure we'll keep talking about it. But massive disclaimer. Is it ever good to miss spring ball, especially as a quarterback? No, not good. There's no way to spin that as a positive. Would it be helpful to see him get more reps? Would it be helpful for his development to get more reps? Absolutely. Does it potentially make you a little bit nervous because other quarterbacks in his more or less like class are getting more reps. Little Sellers, sure. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier going into a second year just starting in the SEC, getting more reps. Yeah, absolutely. Is that separating? Probably. To me, though, I go back to this. I'm not, as of right now, viewing Florida differently from a wins-loss perspective based on him not getting spring practice. And to me, this is like the smart kid in your class not doing summer reading. What are you doing? What? Read the book, dude. We had several months. It's important for you to do that. It's going to help you get off on the right foot. Read the book, right? Like DJ Lagway, if we could have you healthy, awesome. Go through spring ball. That would help me just overall when it comes to that first day of fall camp. With that being said, that smart kid is probably going to be okay in the class. Now, a lot of that, too, depends on how smart is that kid. Goes back to how truly talented is DJ Lagway in the context of what the SEC is going to be next year. That's a fair question to ask. I fall on the spectrum of him being much more talented in that like top tier in the SEC to where not good to miss spring ball, but I'm not losing sleep over it as of right now. Not good, but I'm not overly concerned as of right now. The reason why, I think the hardest adjustment for him was year one. Like just in general, your first year doing anything, first year in college, first year at a new job, first year, quite frankly, of a new relationship, all those things. That's like the steep learning curve. I think DJ Lagway now, while it would have been nice to get reps, he knows what it is in the SEC. He knows what it is to go through these progressions in this system. He knows what it is to play college football. And so that, to me, takes a lot less of the shock value away from what this injury could have presented. Also, I wish he got the 15 practices. He's got 25 practices in fall camp to improve, give or take. It's a range. I think he's going to utilize those, maximize those, and be in a good shape to be good to go when it comes time for the season, if he's healthy. Now, if you're a Florida fan, I hear what you're saying. JD, don't love the fact that he's injured. Kato and I just talked about this. I hear you. I don't love the fact that we got a 1-year sample size on the guy, and he's been injured in one season. True. Let's bake a little bit. Let's let this marinate. Let's see where this thing goes. If DJ Lagway has no more injuries the rest of his career, okay, great. Then this was a one-off. If he gets hurt again next year and this kind of persists, then you're like, hey, what's going on? Is this a Quinn Ewers situation? Again, I'm going to go ahead and not borrow that trouble right now. I hear what you're saying. Let's hold our opinions a little bit loosely as it stands right now. So if he struggles in the fall, this is my opinion. I don't think it's because he missed spring practice. I think it's about overall he was able to take those 25 practices, max it out, do what he had to do, and go from there. I do think that a lot of the development for him will come in the summer when the rest of his receivers are on the same page with him. So DJ Lagway back to throwing. Love to see it. And maybe a little bit of an exhale if you're a Florida fan in 2025. So next up, man, we got some voicemails to get to. If you have not yet called in, 629-888-3931. Sometimes y'all will shoot me a DM and say, hey, JD, I left a voicemail. Am I too late? Just keep those things coming, brother. Just keep those voicemails rolling because we go back to voicemails from weeks ago to the most recent ones. Obviously, it's better to call sooner rather than later, but there is no like right or wrong time to give us a call. So give us a call again, 629-888-3931. Kind of a trend here. A lot of Michigan fans in the state of Ohio. We got another one calling in, wanting to talk about the strength of Michigan here in 2012. Take a listen.
Hey, JD, this is Noah. I'm from Ohio, and I've got a question about the Michigan Wolverine. After their spring game and the signing of Bryce Underwood, what do you project the strength of the Wolverine offense are going to be this year? They've got the new OCs. They've got a bunch of new wide receivers. They've got just the Tames. They've just got a lot of pieces that I feel like are going to mold together really well. They've got decent offensive line production. What do you think is going to be the main strength? If not the offense, what else do you think? Thanks, JD. Have a good one.
Dude, Noah's out there hooping or something. That Noah's getting some pickup in, bro. He just says, I got time in between this run. Let me give a quick call to the hard count. Noah, appreciate you for that. 2 thoughts. 1, I don't think you have a different ID. 2, the fact that you're asking this question in itself is awesome. We'll unpack that right now. Before we do that, Michigan fans, subscribe. It lets us know you want more Michigan content. So the more subscribers we get, the more Michigan content we're going to do, because this is a supply and demand operation. Appreciate y'all being subscribed. Also, the Hard Count brought to you, presented by Culver's. Good stuff, man. Frozen custard, butter burgers. I mean, Andy and Ari were at the draft just absolutely crushing all the content made possible because of Culver's. If you're in Ann Arbor, per a quick Google search, you got 2 right around you. So listen to this, watch this segment, feel good about life, jump in the car, go get a Butterburger, go get something from Culver's, lock in, and get ready for college football season right around the corner. So to me, the strength of Michigan, to answer your question, Noah, I don't think it changes that much. And yet, yes, new quarterback, new OC, different returning production from last year with Donovan Edwards gone to the league and all that, but like Colson Loveland gone to the league, 2 first-round picks on the defensive line gone to the league. But I think you check Michigan's ID, it looks kind of the same. Maybe a new picture. Maybe it's aged up a little bit. Maybe a different haircut. The same ID. It's still McLovin, baby. It is punch you in the face, choke you out, make you tap. We're more physical than you. We're going to win the fourth quarter. Sorry about it. Sorry, not sorry. That's who Michigan is. Now, to what I said at the other part of this, the second part that's, I think, actually pretty fun. If you're a Michigan fan, when was the last time you got to ask a question like this? Maybe J.J. McCarthy's first year as the starter? Maybe. Saying, hey, could we be more of a dynamic offense, which turned out you were. The fact that you get to ask this speaks volumes to the trend of Michigan and where Sharon Moore has them headed. Because now we talk about the talent level overall, like a top 10 recruiting class showing out in Ann Arbor. That's a good vibe. Oh, by the way, you have a freak show quarterback as a true freshman, who I keep saying he's going to start now. He is going to start. Chip Lindsey, changing the offensive structure a little bit more spread, probably a little bit more, hey, we could throw the ball downfield. To me, just what I said a second ago, yes, Bryce Underwood's going to be awesome at some point in time during his career in Ann Arbor. The front of your schedule, though, and the way things shake out, you have the luxury of you can support Bryce Underwood with the previous formula, what I just said. Defense, they feel as good as they did a year ago when it comes to more NFL draft picks. Maybe not as many first-round draft picks, but more NFL draft picks overall on this defense. Run game, Justice Haynes, Marshall, what he was in the bowl game, you still have that. Offensive line, sure, you're figuring some pieces out, but you don't question that being Sharon Moore's baby. I actually think, on top of that, you got a quarterback who's, 228 pounds, call it 6'3"-ish, can throw down a backflip. You don't think they're going to let him run the ball a little bit? Like, yeah, there's going to maybe take some time to get totally comfortable as a passer in college football if you're, basing it off the spring game. But, I mean, you don't think he can do something for you on quarterback power? Let that dude who runs a 4.5 40 at that size get out and about a little bit? I think that's probably going to factor in some respect. So, it's not so much, to me, the strength changing, Noah, that's exciting about Michigan. To me, it's your limitations changing. Like last year, you'd be Ohio State and Bama throwing for less than 100 yards. What? Beat the national champions throwing for less than 100 yards at their place? What if you got 200 yards through the air in that game? What's the score at that point? Same thing with Alabama. What if you had real deal, like firepower vertically through the air? What happens then? Think about the games that you lost last year that maybe you win if you have actual passing game presence with Bryce Underwood now. That's the exciting thing. The exciting thing is you get to 3rd and 6, and you're not thinking, oh, gosh. Punt, get ready. Punt team ready. We're going to 36 wham it here, I guess, or throw an incompletion, and then I guess see where we can pin him deep. You're not asking that. You're saying, Bryce Underwood, drop back on the edge. Can you shake and bake a little bit? Can you find someone in the middle of the field? What can we do there? There's a lot more excitement as to what could we be here. And like Cato said this perfectly before the show, worst case, it doesn't work how you want it to work in year one. Okay, like go to the whiteboard and figure it out, but you can go back to the same formula. Run the ball, punch him in the face. The idea is the same. Different haircut. Maybe it looks a little bit different. You aged it up a little bit. It changed some things, but the idea is still the same with Michigan football. The limitations, to me, are what gets exciting. And don't look now, but there very well could be a little HPO side, a little high-powered offense here in Ann Arbor here in 2025. And the vibes will remain immaculate here for the folks in the big house. Now, Landon gave us a call. wants to talk about Bama and the transfer portal. Check it out.
What's going on, JT? This is Landon from Mobile, Alabama. I just wanted to talk about my confidence is rising in this new season coming up in Alabama, especially with losing no spring players, no scholarship players in the spring portal. I just want to see your thoughts on that and the bounce back from last year's mass transfer exodus. And yeah, thanks.
Landon, thanks for calling. Again, 629-888-3931. Bama fans, go ahead and lock in and subscribe. The lack of losses via the portal for Alabama in this spring cycle just got to feel good if you're a Bama fan. Because you're a year removed from, just hemorrhaging talent in both portal cycles, it felt like. Caleb Downs, he's gone to Ohio State. So you go down the line here of guys that left Alabama from a year ago that were going to be, you felt like key contributors for you from a season ago. So you're able to save some face there. But to me, what I like about this and what this says about Bama is it feels like Bama and Kalen DeBoer, roster to staff, they have determined the relationship. A little DTR conversation there, all right? Because when you're in that talking phase, you're not able to really build anything, right? Like I know a lot of y'all that watch this show are in college, maybe you're in the talking phase right now. You're not able to really build your relationship towards an ultimate goal of let's get married, build a life together, all those things. It's like, no, tomorrow you could jump in the dating portal, get on some apps, and we're off to the races and like, hey, see ya. We got options. When you're in the talking phase, you got options. Bama's no longer in the talking phase. They're in the commitment phase. They have determined what they're going to be. Foundationally, things are set. Also, we shouldn't turn a blind eye to the reality that I don't think Bama kept this roster together at a free $99 price point. It's not all that long ago. Bama's on the front line saying, hey, we need a little bit more cash flow here, folks. A little bit more NIL commitment. Seems like that was taken care of if you're keeping a lot of your team intact past the spring portal cycle. So shout out to them. What excites me, though, with what I just said, now that you're kind of settled at Alabama, culturally at least, committing to Kalen DeBoer, you can make it now about talent. Because how many times last year did it feel like Bama wasn't actually – the lesser talented team getting beat on the field? I love Vanderbilt. They're down the road from us. I'm a Diego Pavia stan. Y'all, Vandy wasn't more talented than Bama. Oklahoma, we did a segment on them earlier in the show. Oklahoma wasn't more talented than Bama. Bama, to me, the reason they lost games last year, it felt like there was very much so a non-committal feel to where that roster was. And that's not me dunking on the guys that were there. It's just the reality. The culture wasn't at the same temperature. If you watch Alabama football under Nick Saban and what they were last year, it was obvious. It wasn't the same. It was not the same. Like, Bama does not lose that game with Nick Saban coaching. Just the way that it feels to me. Because I don't think they overlook a Vandy. I don't think they overlook an Oklahoma. I think they're probably ready to rock and roll. So now that we're talking about everyone being recommitted to the standard at Bama, recommitted to what we're going to do here in Tuscaloosa, I get excited about, okay, now we're back to talking about talent. Now we're talking about our guys maxing out what the system is, what their talent level is, and being able to go win games they're supposed to win. Like, to me, that I think is kind of the conversation around culture in a nutshell in college football. Good culture means you don't lose games you're not supposed to lose. I'm oversimplifying it, of course, but that's one of the key pillars, I think, of like a mature, good culture in college football. And Bama, not saying it was bad, but there was definitely some things to be desired. And now with, everyone recommitting to this team, it comes back to, are they able to stay away from, like, the deal breakers, to stick with this dating metaphor? Everyone's got deal breakers, right? Maybe yours is bad manners. Maybe yours is someone being late. Maybe it's a bad I don't know what it is. Maybe it's whatever it is for you. Bama's deal breaker right now is the quarterback position. That's what it is. That's going to make or break their season. If they make the college football playoff, they hit with Ty Simpson, Austin Mack, Keelan Russell, whoever it is. Think it'll be Ty Simpson right now. Food for thought. But last year, as good as Jalen Milroe was, he was inconsistent. That was your deal breaker, along with the culture you were trying to get settled out there. That was what it was, man. You didn't know which Bama team you were getting every single week. We're getting the Bama that showed up in the first half against Georgia. We're getting the Bama that showed up against Oklahoma. I don't know. I don't know. We never knew. But if you have consistency at quarterback with Ty Simpson, that to me makes you feel a lot better about what you can be as an offense. We talk about the system, talk about how they want to stretch it downfield. You didn't have a guy that could run Kalen DeBoer's system consistently, at least, when it came to the passing game. And Jalen Milroe, I'm a big Jalen Milroe fan as well. I've told you many times, I think what he was keeping Alabama as a roster together last year probably gets overlooked a little bit. But in modern college football, in Kalen DeBoer's system at least, you need someone that can check all the boxes for you, make all the throws consistently, and keep you on schedule. Whoever that is, whether it's Ty Simpson, Keelan Russell, Austin Mack, they're going to have a guy that can do it. And if they don't, then the deal's broken. So all that's to say, Landon, the lack of portal losses to me, again, makes it about talent, makes me feel good about the culture. And I keep saying this, I'm not selling my Bama stock just yet. I'm not. Kalen DeBoer, he can coach ball, he can recruit. Give it a second to get settled, right? Give it a second to get settled, and we'll see what they are here in 2025, and we'll go from there with our opinion of a one Kalen DeBoer. Now, this is something we've been tracking for a while. The Joey Aguilar and Nico Iamaleava saga is just phenomenal, the gift that keeps on giving to us as college football fans in the month of May. Not phenomenal for the sport necessarily as a overall headline. No one's a fan of the way that whole thing shook out. But what I will say is we're at the point now where, so what's next? The drama is essentially behind us. Nico's at UCLA. Joey's at Tennessee. Both missed spring practice. What's it going to take for them to be successful? Maybe the better question is, what is success for both these guys at their individual news stops? We'll unpack it right now. Make sure you're locked in now. Make sure you are subscribed. This is College Football Nothing But. Tennessee fans, make sure you're locked here. We're going to talk a lot about your Vols. UCLA fans, if you want more UCLA content, subscribe and let us know. Appreciate y'all for that. Okay, so let's start with Joey Aguilar because I think his situation to me is the most complex of this whole thing. I think the task in front of him with missing spring practice is, can you get up to speed in the Josh Heupel offense? And that sounds like sort of a simple thing to say, but I mean, like the way they run things, it's not going to be an experience thing for Joey Aguilar playing college football. He's done that at a high level. I mean, at App State, he's got the single-season record for passing touchdowns, total offense, passing yards, all those things. That's great. But with Tennessee's offense, it's a very different beast. They're running a play like every 25, 30 seconds. You got to be all the way dialed into what we're doing here. And so the task for him, I think, in being dialed into that offense, I need him to be the sniper. I don't need you to take over. I don't need you to run around with the Superman cape on, but I do need you to, when Josh Heupel schemes some guys open, we hit on those open shots. Something Nico, quite frankly, wasn't that awesome at last year. Like the task ahead of him with their expectations being a college football playoff berth at Tennessee, based on what last year was, it's more fair because you're not trying to walk into shoes where the guy was a first-team All-American, first-team All-SEC. Like, I don't need Aguilar to be Hendon Hooker for Tennessee to have success next year. Now, again, that's assuming that the Tennessee defense doesn't have some massive drop off the face of a cliff. I do think, though, if you're a Tennessee fan, there is some understanding, though, of your situation here. Like, Joey Aguilar, he can't be responsible for receivers getting open. He's got to be responsible for hitting them when they're open. But I do think it's kind of like whenever you bring a quarterback in after spring practice, you're starting your paper the night before. You are. So what you're going to lose in terms of quality and maybe knowledge of the subject, you got to make up for in word count. You got to make up for in some other way. Maybe it's using more flowery language, maybe a little bit more verbose across this thing. I don't know what it looks like. I don't. But I do think now you understand, hey, Joey Aguilar, we're not going to have the same expectations we had for you of a guy who's been in the system now for a year, let alone having a full spring practice. It's got to fall on Josh Heupel here to dial up some winners for these receivers to get open. So that's my opinion on this. We'll get to success here for him in a second. Let's go to Nico. The climb in front of him is a little bit more simplistic in the sense that Nico is walking into a situation that scored less than 20 points a game, and he is right away the most talented individual from a rating perspective on the roster. Not just the quarterback room, on the entire roster. And so success for UCLA in 2025 will go as Nico goes. Like, if you're Nico, can you go be the 5-star you were billed as a recruit, brother? That's really the question here. Because, UCLA, their over-under win total right now is 5.5. We're not asking UCLA to go make the college football playoff. We're asking UCLA, can you raise the floor a little bit here? I don't think you're beating Ohio State or Penn State. That's not what we're asking. Can you go beat, like, the Marylands of the world? Can you go beat the Michigan States of the world, the Washingtons of the world? That's what I'm asking for. So, like, success for Nico, you inherit a car with 2 flat tires, go win 8 games. Dude, if Nico wins 8 games in Westwood, clap it up for Deshaun Foster. They'll play that opening press conference for him at Big Ten Media Days as like a soundtrack to UCLA greatness, dude. They'll remix it, put it in a highlight video. It'll be awesome. The bar isn't set enormously high with what they are in UCLA this upcoming year. It's all about, can you reestablish the floor, get UCLA to be like an 8-ish win team is my question for the Bruins here in 2025. Now, Joey Aguilar, like we said, what you inherit is different. Like, is it a used car? Yeah. Is it a perfect situation? No. But is it good enough to get to the point you want to get to? I think so. I really do. I think Deshaun Bishop is good enough, the running back for them. Is he Dylan Sampson? No, but I think he's got enough production there. I think Josh Heupel's good enough. I think your defense talent level is maybe not the same with what it was with James Pierce, but I do think it's still pretty deep enough in the SEC at least with that schedule. Success for them is, can you make the playoff, and then cherry on top is, can you go win a game in the playoff? I really think so. And it'd be different if you were walking in with like a true freshman or a quarterback who had never played a la Jake Merklinger. Joey Aguilar's got some real, again, sample size to point to and say, this is how good he can be. This is what he brings to the table here. So for Tennessee, it really is about, can you get to a point where the pieces around Joey Aguilar are stable enough to allow him to do what he does? And then Joey Aguilar, can you hit the open shots, just like we said a second ago? Hit the vertical throws. Don't give the ball away. Tennessee should win a lot of football games. I really believe that. So when we decide who won this trade at the end, let's be careful not to just do the apples to apples. Well, UCLA, they won 8 games. Tennessee, they won 9 games. Tennessee won the trade, right? I don't know if that's the case. Now, if UCLA misses a bowl game and Tennessee makes the playoff again, then I think we have our answer there. But that's where I see this whole thing trending, man. The Joey Aguilar versus Nico Iamaleava trade will be tracked, I'm sure, throughout the rest of the season. Will definitely be tracked over here. But different tasks, different expectations, different definitions of success from what I can gather when it comes to 2025 for UCLA and Tennessee alike. So excited to hear y'all's thoughts on that. Something fun we've been doing on the show is trying to silence the narrative a little bit, or maybe cut through the narrative is a better way to say this. What's the national perception of Notre Dame football? And then on top of that, like, what's actually true about Notre Dame football? Because this time of year is very dangerous, for us included, to get caught up in the echo chamber, because you live in the snapshot of what you saw last, right? And then you take that and you subtract what they lost, and then you make your own opinion from there, when maybe that's not always the right way to approach it. Notre Dame played for the national championship game a year ago, won the semifinal to get the national title game over Penn State, but then they lose Riley Leonard, you lose some pieces on defense, lose your defensive coordinator. It's very easy to get caught up in what's Notre Dame? We'll talk about that right now. Before we do that, though, want to make sure y'all know the hard count is brought to you by Game Time. Notre Dame fans, subscribe to the channel. Okay, Game Time's taking care of us. Week 2 now, Texas A&M. A little home and home action. They're rolling into town. So if you want to make sure you got good tickets to that, Game Time's got you covered, brother. I'll just tell you that right now. If you want to even wait till the day of the game and check the Game Time app, find the best tickets, best prices, guaranteed. Game Time, man, they are your spot to do that. I keep saying this, but you are able to see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know that whenever you purchase your ticket under Touchdown Jesus, you're going to have a good view of the game for the best price. Again, so take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code HARDCOUNT for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. So the perception of Notre Dame right now, I believe, as much as we are concerned about what they lost a year ago, I still think a lot of people see Marcus Freeman and see Notre Dame and say, with that schedule, with the way that it's front-loaded, with what C.J. Carr is, think Notre Dame has arrived. I really think that is kind of the perception. I think people understand now, when it comes to the college football playoff conversation, the national title picture, you have to deal with Notre Dame. Not that you have to crown them, but you have to at least deal with them, which I think is saying something in terms of what they have built to. Roster-wise, culture-wise, the run last year I think really validated them in a lot of ways. Beating Georgia, I think, for a lot of people validated them last year. That's the perception, which isn't incorrect, but I think the reality is a little bit deeper than that. I don't think that the rest of college football understands exactly how arrived they truly are. It's kind of like whenever you go to Disney World for the first time, or you're on your way to go to Disney World or Disneyland for our California folks, you think you know what you're getting into. You've seen the movies, you've heard the stories, you've checked the website, you've checked social media. There's rides, there's food, there's all these things. There's shows, awesome, cool. You think you know. But you don't really know until you show up and experience it all for the first time. It's like, well, okay, I didn't have the familiarity with their game. I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game, Mickey Mouse. That's on me. Y'all, it's a weird comp. I think that's Notre Dame football. Because we think we know from last year, okay, yeah, cool, you beat Georgia, Marcus Freeman. Dude's yoked and probably could be a male model, but instead he's a college football head coach. Great, they win a lot of games. Awesome, line of scrimmage, all those things. Yes, true. All those things are true. But like the way they've recruited on defense, it's not going to drop off because they lost Xavier Watson, Al Golden. You watch the spring game. Spring game's a spring game, but it's the same temperature. The exact same temperature. You know what you're getting from Notre Dame on defense. The offense. You lost Riley Leonard. Okay, bummer. Totally hear that. But Jeremiah Love's still there. On top of that, I think they have more knockout juice, quite frankly, on offense this year. I think Jaden Greathouse, the receivers we mentioned many a time here, Faison, the portal pieces in Pauling, Fields, they got some guys now. Like they have some actual opportunity to get into shootouts and win those shootouts because of how they throw the football downfield. Like CJ Carr has some of the again, it's early, but I think he's got a little special to him. He made some throws during that spring game where you say, okay, that's different. That'll work. Jade Greathouse in the slot working. That'll be different than what we've had here in the last couple of years, at least, at Notre Dame. So there's that with it. And then, like I said, the schedule's front-loaded. You split Miami and A&M, okay now. You'd like to win both those, but if you split those, okay now. We're starting to look ahead and see the playoff and the South Bend Invitational, to coin a phrase that Cato has hopefully we verbally trademarked that here soon. But like that's where Notre Dame's looking right now. That's how they're set up for success. And so this, to me, is why punchline culture was always such nonsense around Marcus Freeman. And good for Notre Dame for standing by him and allowing him to have his vision and plan play out. Direction always more important than speed. But Marcus Freeman, a couple of years ago, they lose to Marshall. Everyone's saying, is he the right guy? Is he in over his head? This past year, they lose to NIU. Same deal. Hey, I don't know if this is Marcus Freeman. Great defensive mind. I don't know if he's a head coach. And then this thing plays out, and you watch them on January 20th playing Ohio State with a game in the fourth quarter for a national championship. Marcus Freeman's that guy, and he's only going to get better. The way he's recruited, the way that he's built, again, that culture, the roster, all those things. Like this is a thing now that is off the ground, has momentum, and because of last year, it's only going to flywheel. Like we say this a lot, but the excuses to go to Notre Dame now, a lot less quiet. Or a lot more quiet, I should say. Excuse me. A lot more people hesitant to probably negative recruit Notre Dame. Why? Because they went out and beat Georgia. They went out and beat Penn State. Everything you said you couldn't do at Notre Dame, from competing for national championships and making runs in college football playoffs and winning at the highest level, you no longer can say those things because of last year. And so with less excuses now, it gives Marcus Freeman more ammo, more real proof to throw down on a recruit's living room table and say, come to Notre Dame, here's why. That school you want to go to in the SEC, go for it. But understand, we just beat the SEC champ last year in the college football playoff at their own game. Far be it for me to tell you what you should do, but I think that's Marcus Freeman saying that kind of thing. So one more thought here, just kind of a bonus thought. I do think, too, Notre Dame, without playing their conference title game, will a lot of years it'll be a discussion of, well, hey, Notre Dame, one less data point. Yeah, that's true, but I think last year's playoff run, it's weird to say, I think it established some goodwill in the mind of the playoff committee. If we put Notre Dame in the playoff and they've got 2 losses, let's say, I don't know how this whole thing shakes out. Let's say they have 2 losses and it's between them and some other team with an equal number of losses. You trust Notre Dame is not going to make you look foolish in round 1 because of this most recent run. Is that something that's consistent? We'll see, but that's how I feel about it. And the bottom line here is Notre Dame, they've arrived for sure. I think people get that. but how arrived they are, how much they're going to, I think, like hockey stick up to the right. I mean, I think that's going to be something that we see more of here in the future for the Fighting Irish. So the vibes stay immaculate in South Bend. So I'm excited for this, man. We had a conversation with our guy, Will Redmond, general manager for Auburn. Phenomenal conversation. Great, just a great human being, dude. Great human being. You feel good about the future of Auburn football as long as he's running the show out there. But the conversation is brought to you, powered by Teamworks. GM All Access is powered by Teamworks. Win the revenue sharing era with Teamworks General Manager. Purpose-built for collegiate athletics. Trusted by 99% of D1 NCAA institutions. Teamworks is uniquely designed by those who understand the challenges of college athletics. Strategically allocate resources, optimize investments, evaluate your roster, and build championship caliber teams all on one integrated platform. Check out teamworks.com/general-manager to learn more. So Auburn fans, make sure you're subscribed. Here's our conversation with Auburn GM Will Redmond. So, Will, a lot of your job, I have to believe, comes with logistics and roster construction and putting people in the right place. So I think you're the perfect person to ask this to. Are you taking 100 men or a gorilla if push came to shove there?
I'm going gorilla every time. I think
Dang,
people don't know what they don't know, and they don't really want to find out. I'm taking gorilla every time.
That sounds like you have some previous, like, gorilla expertise.
I got in an argument with a guy I worked with at LSU on a similar topic. So oddly enough, and this was 3 years ago, oddly enough, we did a little bit of digging and some research. I don't feel great about man versus wild in that scenario, and I'm going gorilla. Yeah.
Dang. Even if you can pick your roster, like you get to pick all the super freaks in the NFL and you get a couple guys from the MMA, you're still going gorilla.
There's just a relentlessness to a wild animal that can't be topped by the average human. And I get what you're talking about is not average humans, but at the end of the day, I'm going gorilla.
That's tough. Okay, that's tough for me because I've been team 100 men here in the office. And so our producer, Caden Smith, has been team gorilla. And so this is not helping my case. But, Will, sorry, go ahead.
No, I said, well, it is what it is.
Goes like that sometimes. But, Will, on the football side of things, I think a lot of college football fans are still getting introduced to what a general manager does in college football. If you were to sum up the kind of hats you wear during a given calendar year in college football, how would you best describe that?
It's funny. I don't know that this interview, we got enough time because I feel like every day I've got more hats that I walk in and get to choose from. What's cool about that is no day or hat that you would wear, right, per se, is the same. And so from my perspective, I'm trying as much as I can to manage these things on a general level as best as possible. In every scenario, we've got great people around our building. We've got great people from top to bottom that are constantly doing their best to make Auburn as great a program as it could possibly be. And we know the sky's the limit here, right, in terms of winning national titles and championships. And so when you manage all those things from a general perspective and fashion, you get to have your hands in a bunch of cookie jars. But we've got great people everywhere. I try and get in where I can fit in a lot of cases. But my day-to-day operation is to help manage this roster under Coach Freeze, right? Building the roster and utilizing the tools and the resources we have here at a place like Auburn to build this thing in a way that creates championship mindsets and goals and practices. And so, if I had to boil it all down, I would say day to day, it's managing this roster, not letting this roster manage us.
That's a great way to say it, not letting the roster manage you. And I'm sure you mentioned the tools with the landscape continuing to evolve. How does data analytics and platforms like Teamworks Intelligence help Auburn gain a competitive edge, so to speak, when it comes to not just player recruitment, but also player development?
Yeah, I love the idea of marrying art and science when it comes to the evaluation process, right? So call, science, the data, the analytics, the things that can be brought to the table that the average eye doesn't see. And then talk about art, right? Our training ground as scouts, as people who watch tape. I've been doing this now going on season 12. I mean, the reality of it is I've done a lot of things that would make me an expert, and I'm going to air quote that, but just you do things for 10,000 hours, at some point you're going to figure some things out. But how do you marry the two, right? How do you marry the art and science of data and analytics with the eye and what we're looking for specifically and what we know about an individual that maybe numbers don't bring into account. And so as you monitor and look through the football character and the personal character of kids, marry that with what you see on tape, and then add in a layer of data and analytics, you get a gumbo, if you will, to spit out basically what it is that you believe a player can be on your roster. And I think that's the way you marry it, and you do it as best you can to take all of the information in to give yourself the best opportunity to make a decision for your team and roster.
Can't go wrong. Little art science gumbo there. Never a
There
bad
you go.
thing. Never a
There you
bad
go. I
thing.
spent a little time in Louisiana.
Absolutely. You mentioned helping Coach Freeze. What are the touch points like for y'all? Is it primarily a scouting? Is it primarily a recruiting touch point? Talk me through what those conversations are like during a given week for Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would depend on the time of year, right? So there's sometimes a year where roster retention are the big touch points, right? And roster evaluation, making sure that we're allocating, call it what it is, allocating funds the correct ways to the current structure of your roster and doing it in a manner that honors and takes care of your best players, certainly. Then from that standpoint, what we're doing in recruiting, right? What are our evaluations? Where are they at? Where are we at in the recruitment process of a student athlete and his family? Getting them on campus. We've got official visit season here coming up in May and June. Really looking forward to that, and giving yourselves the opportunity to put your best foot forward, to roll out the orange carpet, if you will, for these folks and show them what Auburn's all about in that 48-hour window as best you can. And then also looking towards the portal, right? And so just that calendar breakdown is really the thing that separates, I think, us in our attack of that calendar, and everything that we try and do. They're chess moves we're trying to make, not checkers moves. And so as you go through a given week, depending on the week of the year that you're in and the calendar mode that you're in, and coaches going on the road and getting the head coach into schools and meeting with kids and families, I mean, those are important things. And so it really depends on the time of year. It depends on, as the calendar turns, what your focus is. But as long as you make that the most important piece while juggling all the other elements in the air, you're going to have a lot of success.
And on top of all that, like the personal element you mentioned, when it comes to recruiting at the high school level, what were some of those conversations like with these recruits when you're trying to get them in the boat for Auburn, when you put together this top 10 class that y'all just signed?
Well, it started here at home for us, right? As you look at the On3 rankings and you look at the different pieces of it, we made a priority our state, right, and locking down our borders here in what we call like the state of Auburn, right, is what we wanted to do, is go out and do some unprecedented things. And Coach Freeze led that charge. It started with him. And even in the recruitment of myself here to be a part of this staff, we spoke very candidly about what it would mean to continue to win over this state. And that was something that Coach was not going to settle on. We were going to do everything within our power to make sure student athletes, families, and high school coaches in the state of Alabama knew that Auburn was here and Auburn was here to stay. And so making them a priority on a daily basis is kind of where we started there. And as we went through the year and as they saw our needs, we were open and candid about where they fit on this roster, their opportunity to see the field and what it looked like from a compensation standpoint. Once you married all those things together, what you got was a really talented class that we're really excited about going through the spring. We had the opportunity to see a lot of these guys in action. We only have a handful of guys that weren't here with us early. Then you couple that with the portal class. Coach Freeze has been able to sign 2 top 10 classes, a top 10 portal class as well. So getting the roster flipped and get it headed in the right direction was the charge by him to all of our staff members. And everybody has picked up the rope and pulled in the same direction, which has been really fun.
You mentioned that those early enrollees that got to campus and got to go through spring ball. We got to have Deuce Knight on our show when he was going into his senior year of high school. And one of the things that struck me was just the it factor that he carries himself with, the face, the franchise feel that he gives off. What were your impressions of him, and what were your impressions of him so far throughout spring practice, wrapping up here in the last couple of weeks?
You spend any time with Deuce Knight and you realize very quickly that you're dealing with a highly capable and mature individual, right? In any scenario, in any room he walks in, he can meet with folks. He can hold conversations. He's confident. He's poised. I love the cerebral nature of that for him as a quarterback, and being able to handle when the picture shifts and changes, right, from the quarterback perspective. And I think what has been so neat is watching his growth and development under Ken Austin, right, and Jesse Stone here, and Coach Freeze, Coach Nix, our offensive staff. I mean, he has just taken to it like a sponge. And it's because he's willing to do the work, and he has the football character that we believed he had throughout the recruiting process. And he comes from a wonderful family, and just who he is as a person, people naturally are drawn to. And we are very fortunate to have him on this roster in this locker room, because just by being himself, right, he elevates those around him. He makes you a better person just by being in the same room with him. And he's an awesome kid, man. I am so excited to see him on this team for years to come. It's really exciting.
I think a lot of people look at your quarterback room, you say, okay, great, you got Deuce Knight. But then on top of that, you also go get Jackson Arnold out of the portal, a former 5-star in his own right. What made him the right fit for y'all at Auburn?
I think you look at what Coach Freeze wants to do offensively, right? The RPO system, the ability to throw the deep ball, the ability to run, scramble, to create on the move. That's a vitally important thing in today's college football, right? And Jackson has an it factor to him as well that you can't deny. And when you spend time around him and you get to know him, it's fun and exciting to see those guys work together. I mean, it's cool because they're always walking in the building together. They're feeding off one another and competing and having a wonderful time together in building a brotherhood, a bond in that quarterback room that's really special. And so from Jackson's perspective, bringing him here, showing him how he would fit in this offense, right? Building the relationships, the character, the type of person he is. I mean, you don't become the National Gatorade Player of the Year for no reason. I mean, Jackson Arnold is an elite talent, and we think by providing him our ecosystem and allowing him to grow and thrive in it, he's going to have the opportunity to flourish in a big way.
And then, I mean, either one of those guys, they're throwing to a pretty stacked room of wide receivers from Cam Coleman.
Pretty strong room.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I think I was out there during spring ball a year ago watching Cam Coleman as an early enrollee, and I'm like, it's not a freshman. That's not a freshman wide receiver running around out there, and he does what he does as a true freshman this past year in college football. But now you add to that room, staying in the portal vein, Eric Singleton. What was the pitch for you guys to bring him to Auburn? Because one of the top guys in the portal, I'm sure he had a fair amount of people give him some phone calls and text messages. What made him ultimately end up with Auburn?
Yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to a familiarity, being from the Atlanta area, having relationships with guys like Kenyatta Watson here, make him a natural fit to join our locker room. He has an elite skill set, right? The speed, the hands, the ability to cut in and out of breaks, right? To find open grass, help quarterbacks out. I mean, Eric is just naturally gifted in so many ways. And what's so neat is above all that as a person, right? Again, I keep going back to the personal character that these kids have, and the amount of time we pour into that is intentional, right? But Eric is another kid that when he walks in the room, people naturally gravitate toward him. He's a big smile guy that his teammates love to be around. Coach Marcus Davis did a phenomenal job recruiting him with Coach Derek Nix as well as Coach Freeze to show him the vision and plan for him as well, not only as a receiver, but as a kick returner. And so, yes, while he was being pursued by several, top programs in the country, just like Auburn, I think ultimately his familiarity with this place from even his high school recruitment process and the familiarity with people in this building gave him comfort and his family comfort in choosing Auburn and selling the vision of what this thing's getting ready to become, which we're all really excited about.
Since Coach Freeze got to Auburn, it seems to be a theme of we're continuing to push the envelope with just stockpiling this roster with talent. How would you define where Auburn is right now as it pertains to that whole push to get Auburn to where they want to be from a talent perspective as the GM?
Yeah, I would say we're on track, right? We're trending in a positive direction, which is what Coach Freeze's charge to all of us has been is, hey, let's continue to make daily strides to getting this thing to what Auburn deserves to be. Right, which is a championship contender in some way, shape, or form. And so as we continue to push this roster towards that creates competition. And more competition allows all boats in the building to rise, right? And so whether you're a freshman coming in and you're the best player, you're going to have an opportunity to see the field, right? It does not matter age. It doesn't matter background. It doesn't matter years on campus. None of that. Portal guy, high school kid, inherited guy on the roster. It doesn't matter. The best players will play. And I think that level of understanding by our entire roster as set by Coach Freeze allows us the opportunity to create competition by recruiting student athletes to come in and seize that moment and kind of seize the day as it pertains to starting opportunities. And so, again, all boats rise with that competition, and we saw a lot of that this spring.
Will, last question for you, man. We appreciate all your time. Getting to be on campus last spring and watch y'all practice felt like a buzz was in the air. Like you felt like something's happening on the plains.
Absolutely.
What fires you up about where Auburn is right now and where you guys are going to be here in the next, season and next couple of seasons, quite frankly?
I think you're really seeing the culture Coach Freeze has brought to Auburn really take off. It starts in the locker room, and the idea is we're going to sign elite high school talent, right? We're going to grow and develop that talent. We're going to supplement in the portal as needed. But it's going to start with high school classes, right? And allow that vision and that culture to play out and permeate throughout the locker room, so that now as we go into, coach's third year here in future years to come, right, that culture is living and breathing in an ecosystem where that's the standard by which we operate. And that starts at the head. It starts with coach and his ability to get these guys, singularly focused on a team first mentality, not worrying about all the noise out there surrounding college athletics right now, and just worrying about being a great teammate, being a great student, being a great son, in some cases being a great husband and father, whatever it may be. Those are the things that are most important in a Hugh Freeze program, and those ideals align with Auburn through thick and thin. And so as you bring people into the Auburn family, as cheesy as that sounds, right, and they experience that, it changes them for the better, and that culture then permeates itself onto the practice field and into Jordan-Hare on Saturdays and into this conference, which is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, I think people are seeing it. I think the entire college football world is starting to look over on the plains and say, hey, what's going on up there at Auburn, Alabama? What's Will Redmond building over there with Hugh Freeze? But, man, we again appreciate you making time, and I can't wait to watch y'all here get after it on Saturdays in Jordan-Hare.
Thank you, JD. Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate Will making some time. Just talk some new college football, if you will, where this thing is headed and where Auburn's headed in regards to that. But we appreciate y'all for being subscribed. Appreciate y'all making this show what it is, man. Again, tons of content right here on the On3 YouTube channel. College football does not stop. This show does not either. Don't want y'all to miss it, so make sure you are, again, subscribed. For Cato on the ones and twos, for myself, JD PicKell, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We will keep this party rolling, and we'll see y'all.